Hey everyone. So it's winter time. Obviously it's been winter for a while. Here in south central Minnesota we've been pretty mild for the most part until recently. We've gotten our sub-zero temperatures, and I always call it, oh, we're getting January and February, because I don't know, January this year was pretty mild. Didn't have to worry about a heck of a lot. Probably one of the warmest Januaries on record. I guess I really don't know for sure, but I know one time Dad said he remembers him and Grandpa grinding feed for the cows in January one year in t-shirts. So it is amazing what weather is capable of. One thing that gets brought up a lot, and you know, to my subscribers and whatnot that are here for tractor stuff, please be patient with me. There will be more tractor stuff on the way. This time around we got another poultry video. I'm thinking next weekend I'm gonna start doing some equipment tour videos. I think it's supposed to be warmer. Hopefully can get some of the shed doors open, and we'll give that a go. People seem to enjoy that stuff. But anyway, one thing that gets asked a lot with the poultry stuff is, you know, hey, it's gonna be cold, or my chicken's gonna be all right. So I just thought I'd do a little run through on what I do. You know, by no means is this gospel. Sometimes you just have to go with what works for you, and you have to adjust with your area. I mean, this doesn't go for everybody. This is just what works for me. So first off, we're just going to talk about general pen construction. One of the things you should always take into consideration, and this is before you even get chickens or birds or whatever, is where are you going to place your pens. Now, off to that direction, that's the northwest, where we get our coldest winds from in the winter. So obviously, if you build open front pens like this, you do not want them facing the north. You know, this winter's been pretty mild, so these pens actually work quite well. You know, on the back end here is a little lean-to section, and then the roost bars here is a 2x4 turned sideways, and that's just so they can keep their feet fully stretched out and cover them. And see, we'll get a close-up. Hopefully he doesn't take off. Look at his toes are in perfect condition. Not a darn thing wrong with them. And then obviously too, I don't know, some people talk about wood chips, shavings. You know me, I bale my own straw, so everything gets straw for bedding. Just lots of straw. That way the ducks can sit down and cover their toes real good. And well, you notice too, none of these pens got heated waterers. They're rubber pans. You flip them and kick them out. I've been doing that for a long time. Another thing to think about is when you're building new barns, or when you're placing pre-built barns, is think about the windows. You know, very important thing is having windows in the barn, but obviously in us northern states with wintertime, if them windows are facing the north, they're not going to do much good. So in this one, I know we got windows are facing the south. One of them's covered. This one I never covered because, you know, we're pretty mild. We usually don't get much wind out of the south. And in here I got little feather-footed Cochin Bantams, and they are just fine. Nothing wrong with them. And you know, too, a lot of times folks always talk about that you got to close them up in the barn, keep them out of the wind. That's kind of got a point to an extent, but at the same time, if they can get sunlight to them, you know, if you close them up in a barn with no windows, that's almost worse than having them outside, in my opinion. I mean, this front little rooster, I mean, obvious, I don't know if it shows up at this little camera, I can't zoom, but he's got a little frostbite damage in the wattles, which I am sure it doesn't feel good, but it happens. So here's my duck and goose pen. I got all large breed stuff for these. One thing that's always important to watch, you should really watch it on all poultry, but on big ducks and geese like this, you know, like him there, they love dropping down to their bellies so they can pull their feet up into their feathers and keep their feet warm. So when it's this cold, they sit down a lot, and usually what happens is they just sit and crap nonstop, and I always stand in the pen and sit and stare at them so I can see who's got frozen wads to their tail end that has to get removed. Because I mean, there's nothing worse than losing a bird because he couldn't, you know, go. And you know, here with these guys, they actually got a heated stock tank, and you know, it kind of goes without saying, but just because you have a heater doesn't mean you're going to be foolproof. I mean, look at this. Still formed ice, even though there's a heater. Still got to watch it. I mean, right here, they get a lot of buildup of ice because they're splashing around, so I just got to take an axe and chip that out every so often without putting a hole in the tank. And see here too, there's a couple of chickens in this pen, and they're just in this open container here, and then that barn over there, and the doors are always open. I never shut them, and they weather it just fine. I mean, some people might think I'm a little cruel, but it doesn't seem to slow them down any. Very, very, very rare do I ever lose a bird in wintertime. So this past week we've had some really cold temperatures, got a few more coming up this coming week. Like Friday, we're going to warm up to 20 degrees already. I mean, it's just going to be unreal. You know, today, what did we wake up to, negative 25 or negative 28 or something? I mean, it's just crazy how we can have such a temperature swing. But one thing always to take in consideration, you know, if you're always worried about your birds in the wintertime, you got to make sure that before you even get birds, that you pick birds that are, you know, winter hardy. You know, here's some of my large breeds. They're all like buff Brahmas or mixed breeds, or there's a buff Orpington, Cochins. You know, they're all breeds that'll handle the weather quite nicely. Even the hot temps too, these birds do good with. But I'm not saying that you can't have warm weather breeds in cold climates. You just have to make additional plans for them, you know, in terms of a heated building or whatnot. But it's just, you know, don't go and get a bunch of frizzles and surmas and all that and expect them to live in negative 30. I mean, you got to have birds that are capable of handling the temps. And also, you know, if you get a sick one, you put it in a heated shop, which I've done that myself, but then you got to plan on keeping them in there for a while. I mean, you know, I can't take a bird from a 60-degree shop and throw it outside right now in negative 20 and expect it to not get sick again or survive. the rubber water pans, I've been doing that on a lot of stuff for quite some time. Almost all my pens I do with that. And I just, you know, I carry water out to everybody every day. Sometimes when it's this cold, twice a day if I am able to do that. Yeah, I get it. Electric heater waters would be a lot nicer. They have water 24/7 then. I don't like running cords everywhere. You know, I have the means of putting outlets to everything, but that's also higher cost, a lot of labor to put that in. And you know too, when you do birds like this, you kind of you train them. They know when you fill the water, they better drink or they're not going to get any. And two, they'll eat snow too. If you give them access to outside, they'll eat snow. You know, another thing too to take in consideration is making sure that your birds are physically fit, that they're healthy, that they're fat. And you know, a lot of that starts with a good feed. Most of my feed on the farm here I mix myself. I get concentrate and stuff to add to it to make better. But you know, a good feed source full of corn. You know, I know a lot of people when they talk feed, in wintertime they always say, oh, well, give them corn before they go to bed or at night so it keeps their bodies warm. I don't know if there's science behind it or what, or they talk about feeding them hot oatmeal. And most of any of that stuff that you find on the internet that people tell you to do to keep your birds warm throughout the winter, I've never done any of it. Not saying it doesn't work. I really don't know. I just know that I don't do it and my stuff survives. I very rarely, like I say, very rarely do I ever lose anything in winter, and very rare that even anything gets sick. If anything, I usually get poop buildup on the back end of a couple of them that needs to get unthawed and taken off. That usually tends to be my biggest trouble. But even then, that's not a huge deal. You know, heat lamps in the barns, I don't do any of that either. You know, back to the heated waters. You know, me personally, I don't like them because of the cords running everywhere. You know, I tend to, when it's cold, cords laying out, you go over with a skid loader or something, you slice the cord off, and now, if you don't realize it right away, now you got a pen without water. You know, if you train them to drink when you fill the pan, they're just fine. Whereas if you got a heated water and the power goes out and now they're, you know, it's like they're stupid. They don't know what to do because they're used to that water always being there. So when it fails or you lose power or something, then you're going to have loss. That's same goes for when you run a heat lamp. They're used to having that heater. Now when the heater goes off, they're going to freeze. I mean, I get it. People want to do the best they can to help their birds and that, but most of the time they're more than capable of being just fine on their own. You just got to do, you know, the three big things: block the wind, make sure they get good feed and that they're fat and healthy, and that you give them water. I mean, with them heated waters and big feeders, I think people lose track of how good their birds do from day to day. Whereas if you're feeding them and watering them daily, you're there every day, you're watching them every day, you know exactly what they do. So when one's out of place, you're set to go. Hopefully this has been a little somewhat enjoyable or educational or however you want to call it. I mean, this by no means was meant to shame anybody. It's just this question gets asked so often that I thought I would just go through what works for me. And yeah, that's about all I got. Hope you all liked it. And you know, to my subscribers and followers that are looking for tractor videos, just hang tight. We're going to do some equipment tours starting next week. So we'll see you then. Till next time.